Hey everyone, today I'm super jazzed about this topic, and this topic is what router should I buy and where should I place them in my home? Now, everyone's home is different, and so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through different floor plans that I've mocked up in Figma, and I'm going to show you how, if you have a studio or an apartment, if you have a townhome or a single family home, what kind of routers you should buy and where you should place them. Now, if you're an IT specialist, this video is not for you. I'm not going to be talking about circles to show signal strengths. I will be using arrows to show line of sight. I also will not be recommending Unify devices, so I know you're probably already upset. I am going to be recommending some consumer friendly. I know Unify is consumer friendly, but more friendly consumer devices in the form of Eero and Orbi, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. So let's actually make sure we're all on the same page about terminology, because already if you're new to this stuff, you might not know the difference between a cable modem and a router. So let's talk about it. So something that a lot of people get hung up on is cable modem versus router. I'm going to talk about that briefly. Again, if you're an IT guru, this one's not for you. A cable modem often looks a lot like this. A cable modem is something you might be renting from Xfinity or for Verizon. And the way I like to think about it is the cable modem is what gets the internet from outside the house. So imagine there's Xfinity over here, Verizon over here. They run a cable into here, and this gets the internet. And so now your home is ready for internet. Again, a modem. This is a router. Routers come in many shapes and forms. They look like this in the front. Often they have a bunch of Ethernet plugins in the back. And where the cable modem gets internet from the outside, it plugs in here, and this gives internet inside. So your iPhone, your Android phone, your laptops, your desktops, etc., they're all getting connected to this via Wi-Fi or maybe even Ethernet. So now this is a modem, which you're probably renting, and this is a router, which I'm going to go more into today. Now, to be clear, there are cable modem / router items out there. I don't really recommend it. I feel like you should get a cable modem standalone, and then get routers standalone, because a separate router often is more performant and more flexible. But see, this one's from Xfinity. Xfinity will market that they have a cable modem / router. Works okay. Their technology has gotten better, but I, generally speaking, do not recommend staying with their products. And I can go over in another video how to save you that $15 rental fee. So let's put this on the side. Again, cable modem, router. I'm going to show you this one time and talk about it one time. You're never going to hear about it again because these are trash. This is an extender. You might walk into Best Buy and tell a rep, hey, I'm having terrible Wi-Fi at home. There are dead zones. I can't connect in certain spots. And the easiest thing to tell you to do is, oh, well, if you don't want to buy a new router, go get an extender. And so here's an extender. What you do is you plug it into a wall somewhere in your home. The idea is this router can't connect to some room over here. So you kind of put this in the middle between the two. And now internet jumps from here to your laptop. On paper, that sounds great, but technically what ends up happening is it's clunky. Sometimes you can connect to it, sometimes you can't. There's just so much I can say about it. But the takeaway here is do not buy an extender. Instead, what I'm going to talk a lot about today is invest in a mesh network system. Now, you're probably at this video because either you don't know how to set up your router, you don't know what a router is, or you have internet at home, but you're having spotty connection in different places in your home. And so that's why I'm going to recommend these in a lot of the floor plans I talk about today. A mesh network often looks like three products that all look the same. In truth, though, one is a router like this. Remember, I told you that this thing gives connectivity to the entire house. Well, let's pretend this is the router. This is going to give connectivity to the entire house. But what you can do is put these satellites in different areas of your home. And now these satellites communicate with this. And so let's say you have a computer over here in some room that's closer to this satellite. Instead of having the computer having to reach all the way over here to get connectivity, it's going to bounce into this, and this is going to bounce into this. Now, the reason why these are great is because they are designed to work very well within its own kind of mesh system. So you can imagine the engineers, the QA technicians, they all test to figure out, are these working really well with each other? It's not a one size fits all, or it's not a, does this work with every device? It's, does it work within its own ecosystem? And if it does, then it's doing its job. So I really highly recommend mesh networks. And in fact, there's different kinds of mesh router brands and products. And I'm going to make some recommendations today based on your home and your budget. So let's jump into floor plans. Hey everyone, I actually completed recording all the things where I talk about what internet you should use with what floor plan. But as I completed it, I realized I probably should have started off with showing what the different products I recommend are. That way, when I get to the floor plan conversation, you could picture what I'm saying with the product that you might need to buy. And so let's go into the products. I'm going to recommend two brands. One is Eero and the other is Orbi. Get this, if you're budget conscious, 350 megabit per second is kind of like your internet speeds, or maybe probably lower. And you are okay with running a dual band system that might have some performance issues, but it's probably honestly okay. Get this, if you have a little more money, a larger home, and you need faster speeds. Get this if you have a big home and you want to be future-proofed, okay? $516, it is a lot of money, I get it. But if you buy this thing, you're going to be using it for hopefully years. And because it's leveraging the new technology, Wi-Fi 6 is going to be around for a little bit. Again, leave any comments or questions below. And if you have any thought, if you want to hear my thoughts on any of the other systems like Unify or Google Wi-Fi, definitely I'm down to answer them. Hi all, we're back. Now we're going to actually look at Figma. I've mocked up a bunch of floor plans that we can look at. And I also took pictures of my own products. I figured why not show you what I actually use. That way you can, one, get a sense of like how I would personally set it up, and also there's also Creative Commons license, etc. I figured I'd just take pictures of my own products. So I'm going to show you modems and then mesh routers and satellites. Let's jump right into this floor plan. So here we have an apartment / studio. It's one bedroom. It's around 600 square feet. Going through this image right quick, we have a door. I made it really quick. Here's a door. Person comes in. They're at the dining room, kitchen. Then there's a living room. Then there's a bedroom and a bathroom over here. I'll let you know that generally speaking, my expectation would be that someone puts the modem over here. I would expect you would move into this place, and the people that created these apartment / studios decided the modem should be placed in a living room. Why? Well, that's probably where someone's going to connect the TV. So it just makes sense to put a cable modem where the TV is going to go, because that's where the coaxial input, the twisty cable, is going to be located. In this scenario, for an apartment that is 600 square feet, you could actually just use the quote-unquote traditional black router I showed you earlier. They've made great advancements in this area. I would probably spend around $150. Actually, I'll look at Amazon after this to figure out a good product for you. To get like a solid, maybe ASUS router, and that might be more than sufficient. But if it's not, what you could do is get a mesh network that only has one satellite. I think this is honestly going to be too overpowered for a 600 square foot home. It's like, I don't think you need to spend this much money, but who knows? Maybe you do have a problem in your home where you have a mesh router here and you can't get access to, I don't know, the bathroom. So I would say place a mesh satellite over here. And now this router can communicate with this satellite and give you connectivity in this area. So that is this is the simplest floor plan. It'll get a little more interesting when we go here. This is a little more realistic, where you would actually have internet problems. I think in the first floor plan, your internet might be fine. So here we have an apartment, 900 square feet, and it's part of an apartment complex. And the reason why this is really important is because of two things. What a lot of people don't understand is there are things that interfere with Wi-Fi connectivity beyond distance. One is if you have a lot of routers and mesh networks around you, all the signals and frequencies and data being exchanged between your neighbor and yours, there's a chance that there is internet frequencies interfering with each other. So you're interfering with your neighbor's Wi-Fi and they're interfering with yours by virtue of potentially using the same frequencies. Now, routers try to get smart about this, and this is why I recommend these products. These products should, like Orbi and Eero, when you plug them in, it should detect what frequency to use that is not being used by someone near you. Now, if you're in an apartment complex, it's going to be a challenge to find a frequency that is not being used, but it'll try its best. We can't really, we can't turn off your neighbor's Wi-Fi, so let's ignore that for a moment. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. The thing that is a big deal and something you can help guard against is surfaces and walls that interfere with Wi-Fi signal. So imagine you have a router here, you have a satellite here, and in between you have walls. Things like very thick wood walls, things like concrete, steel, water pipes, and mirrors, and even a TV. These are all things that really interfere with signal strength. And so here I'm going to play out this scenario where, let's do this. And this spot right here, there's all kinds of things happening. Imagine this is a third floor apartment. Above it is another apartment, another apartment, another apartment. And in this gray spot, imagine if you flipped it like this and it was like going vertically. There are pipes and concrete and all kinds of things happening in between bedroom 1 and bedroom 2. And the reason why this is a big deal is because of, watch this. Scenario 1. I'm the architect of this apartment, and I believe, again, that a TV is most likely going to be in a living room. That's where there's going to be the twisty cable coaxial plug-in. So let's also put our modem there. And so if the modem is here, high possibility that you're going to, plug your router in there because, again, the modem needs to somehow be plugged into a router. So let's do that. Well, like I said, the internet gurus would probably draw circles to show you signal strength, but what I like to recommend people do is stand where their mesh router is, look at the different directions in their home, I call it like line of sight, and identify if you wanted internet, say, over here. Let's put a start here. Let's say you wanted internet over here. What does this router have to do to get internet over here? Well, first of all, obviously it needs to be strong enough. So let's pretend there were no walls, no nothing. Line of sight, obviously you could see the bathroom, right? This wall is not here, this wall is not here, this wall is not here, you could see it. And so as long as this thing has enough signal strength to get to here, it should be fine. But reality is there are walls. And so you have to imagine, as you're standing here looking in this direction, if internet waves went in a straight direction, what would it have to go through? Well, first, it would have to go through this wall, right? Then it would have to go through what could be concrete, could be steel beams, could be water piping. Then it has to go through this wall, then this wall, then this wall, and finally get here. And so you can imagine as it has to go through each one of these surfaces, the signal starts to degrade. In fact, once it gets here, it's really bad. So if we're going to draw an arrow here, oops, sorry. It might look a lot like this if there were no obstructions in between, right? Straight line of sight, there are no walls. But in reality, it's going to be closer to something like this, where it went through this wall, this wall, this wall, and once it got here, it dropped. Like degradation happened really fast, right? It started to clip, and so internet would probably stop like at around here, and you're in no luck. So how do we guard against that? Like, how do we solve for that? Well, that's where a mesh satellite comes in. My recommendation in this scenario is to put a mesh satellite over here. Plug it in one of the walls over here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to have this setup, which is really neat. Your router is going to have a straight line of sight here. And now this, I lied, I am going to draw circles. Now this mesh satellite is going to give, oops, let's remove the fill, let's add a stroke. Now this, and now let's move this. This mesh satellite is going to actually give connectivity in this area. Okay, so now your bathroom is going to have that internet access. And you might be asking, how about internet access over here? Well, again, the mesh router is located over here. And so the bathroom is relatively close. It just needs to go through maybe 1, 2, 3 walls to get to the bathroom, so I think you're fine. But now, by having the mesh satellite here, you have a quote-unquote straight shot to the bathroom. And so in this setup, I think all you need is a router and one satellite. Again, you can get mesh networks in bundles of 3 packs, sometimes even more, but you could just get a mesh router and a simple satellite like this. Now let's play out a different scenario. Let's say that the modem for some reason was actually placed in the bedroom. And again, then you're going to put your router over here. Now you're definitely going to have an issue here, right? I told you that there's a lot of interference happening behind here because maybe there's an elevator, maybe it's a garbage chute, etc. So where do you put your satellite? Well, in this scenario, it's actually a little more challenging. If you think that you can't get any internet around this area, chances are that there is really something bad going on here. So I would recommend trying first, again, one satellite and placing that here. Why? Well, now what we have is a situation where, oops, I have this here, I could use this. You have a router here, and it is hopefully bouncing over here, and it is now able to reach this area specifically here. I think for an apartment at 900 square feet, despite what's going on here, I think this should be sufficient. You could even, I'm telling you, every foot counts. If your modem was located, say, in this area of the room, you could plug your router in over here. And how you do that is you get a really long Ethernet cable that connects this to this. So get like a 20, 25 square foot Ethernet cable routed over here. Now your router is closer to this area, so it can bypass all the interference there, and then connect here, and then connect here. Placement matters, people. So that is a 2-bedroom apartment. What if we go to something bigger? All right, here we have a 3-bedroom apartment. It is, well, what did I set this up as? 1,000 square feet. It is, again, a part of an apartment complex. You could think of this a lot like the other setup. It's just this person has upgraded from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 3-bedroom apartment. Again, this symbolizes the entrance into the apartment. So imagine you walk in here, you get access to the kitchen, then you pass the dining room, which is very close to the living room. And then this thing right here is intended to be a hallway. So from the living room, you can go to the bedroom and then get to the bathroom. Or you can walk over here and get to bedroom 2, or walk down this hall. and access the other bathroom and the bedroom. In this scenario, it's going to be a lot like the other one, but what you could expect is the modem potentially sitting over here in the living room. I'm not going to keep talking about the arrows and stuff as much now because I think I covered that really well. If you skipped ahead, go to the apartment 2-bedroom setup. I talk about it a lot there. But here, if the modem is again in the living room because the coaxial plug is there and the people working on the network figured that's where it should be because that's where the TV is, then you're probably going to put the router there as well, right? Again, a router must be somehow connected to the modem. And I'm going to talk about this a little differently when we get to a townhome and when we get to a single family home, because at that level, the electricians probably put Ethernet jacks all over the homes, and so you could technically put the router in a different place, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So scenario one, I have set up here, the modem is in the living room, router's in the living room. So there's a possibility that you're having problems getting connectivity to bedroom 3. So my recommendation is to put the mesh satellite. There might be in the hallway a wall jack. Plug the satellite there. Okay, and what that's going to do for you is the router is going to have just a thin wall to get across, because this wall, it's a hallway, there's probably not a lot going on in between. The router is going to be able to supply internet to this satellite, and this satellite's going to be able to supply internet to this bedroom. So again, I think in this setup, and just like in bedroom 2, I think one satellite is sufficient. Beyond that, I think you're overpaying and it's overkill. A probably $200 system is sufficient for this setup. In a different scenario, let's say the modem is actually in, I put dining room. Let's make it in the kitchen. Let's say that the electrician, for some reason, put a cable modem set up over here because it's closest to the entry, and they didn't plan accordingly. Well, the router is probably going to be over here. So I think in this case, actually, this room is going to be fine. Again, this hallway is a thin wall. The router is probably going to be able to reach over here. It might struggle in getting to this bathroom or the corner of this bedroom. And so in this setup, what I recommend doing is putting your satellite over here. Now, bedroom 3, bathroom, dining room, and kitchen are probably connecting to this router. And then everything on the left side of this this floor plan is going to connect to the satellite. And I think that's your best bet. And if, again, maybe the electrician decided to run it vertically across this apartment complex, all in this area, and they put a modem over here in bedroom 3, well, the router's here again. Where should you put the satellite? In this scenario, it seems like we're splitting hairs, but I would actually see if you have a plug that you can a wall jack that you can plug the satellite into here. And it's like splitting hairs, like, Roman, what's the difference between here and here? Well, every time this connects with this, it's got to travel some distance. And so it's got to go this far, right? The longer this distance is, the more connectivity / signal drop off you're going to get. So imagine, like, I'm just saying, like, let's pretend someone thought it was, clever to put a satellite here because this is where the internet is having issues. Well, you're still going to have issues, right? If your phone couldn't connect to this router, well, this satellite might have a struggle too. Now, obviously, it's different because a phone is not going to have a circle around it trying to get connectivity here. But the same principle kind of stands true, where you want this to be close enough so that it gets a strong signal from this to then bounce a strong signal to this area here. So I'd probably put the satellite on this side of the hallway wall or this side of the hallway wall, preferably this side, and get connectivity that way. So that's scenarios 1 through 3. All right, here we have a townhome Where the other floor plans were focused on one floor setups, now I've had to switch the floor plan a little bit and talk about multi-floor. And so this is a townhome that is roughly 1,500 square feet. On the third floor, it has the main bedroom and then 2 additional bedrooms. On the second floor, this is where you have your living room, dining room, and kitchen. And on the first floor, it's actually not a living space. This is where you park your car. So imagine those situations where you drive into the garage and then you come in and now you're going through stairs to get, you're going up the stairs to get to the second floor. Then you go through another set of stairs to get to the third floor. So in this scenario, I can imagine the electrician setting up the modem in bedroom 1, potentially. And so what you're probably going to want to do is, and the reason why they can do this, right, this is a quote-unquote home, and now what they're probably going to do is they're going to put coaxial cables here, coaxial cables here, coaxial cables here. And so, you know, by having coaxial cables in all these areas, a person can plug in their TV anywhere. But they're probably going to say, oh, just put the cable modem here because this is where the media box is. Well, if the modem is there, chances are the router is going to be in this area too. So here I'm actually going to finally switch up my recommendation. But once you start getting to the more expensive, say, Orbi setup, the satellites end up looking a lot like the routers. And the reason being is there's Ethernet jacks in the back, so you could actually have even better connectivity with the satellites, and the antennas and signal strength and everything gets stronger. So this is probably emitting medium level strength connectivity, but then if the satellite was a lot like this, it would be greater strength, right? So for the sake of this, so let's pretend that you're like, Romy, I don't want to spend that much money. Let's see if we can actually make do with this satellite that I've already purchased. I think that's fair, especially for this home. Technically, it's a 2-story home, right? Because you're only going to be using the internet a lot on the third floor and the second floor. So in this case, my recommendation would be to put the satellite here on the second floor. This is on the second floor, somewhere in this area. And the way this works is, and the people that make mesh networks recommend this. They don't recommend you putting a satellite right below where the router is, right? So I think some people might make the assumption that, let's say they had 2 additional satellites. Like, oh, well, we'll just put them all under each other. Well, no, what they really want you to do is they want you to stagger it. They want you to put it here, right? And I'm guessing, I don't build these things, but I'm guessing it's for 2 reasons. One, by staggering it, now this actually will give connectivity to this side of the house, and this will get connectivity to this side of the house. The second assumption I have is that the antennas inside the router actually go in a direction that is left to right versus up and down. So I think a lot of people, I actually leave a comment if you want me to talk about my theories on which way you should face your antennas and which way you should face your routers. Because personally, I have noticed a difference when I've configured my own and friends and family routers in a specific direction. I think modern routers, maybe there isn't as much of a difference, but I still use the old school methods that have worked for me. And so if you want me to go into that in another video, please leave a comment. But I think the second theory here is I think everyone assumes that a signal looks a lot like this, right? People assume that signals go in a circle, and it might depending on your router, but really a signal actually moves more like this. Oops. Like an oval, where you see how the signal doesn't actually go up and down that much, but it goes left to right a little more. And so if this is on the right, there's a greater chance that this oval is going to cover this, and this, remember, this has a strength of its own. And so at this intersection is where they're basically talking to each other. and saying, hey, there's a laptop over here in the kitchen connected to me. I'm going to connect with you and give that laptop internet connection by virtue of us communicating in this middle area. So that's how that works. So in this situation, I'll put the satellite here. What if the cable modem, another very likely candidate, was in the living room? Well, let's put the router here as well. And in this scenario, I think the dead spot is going to be around here. And so I actually think you would put this on the 3rd floor and put it in bedroom 2. And here's why. This is going to cover this entire area on the left, and it's going to actually jump up the floor through bedroom 2, hit this, and now this is going to give connectivity to this side. So that's how I would set it up. All right. Well, let's go on to another townhome, slightly bigger. The difference here is it's 200 square feet bigger. Now, the 1st floor is actually a living space. Maybe it's a basement, entertainment, a study, and office. And so in this scenario, you might actually potentially benefit from having 2 satellites versus 1. And so in this scenario, I have it in bedroom 1 again. Here's a modem. Here is a router. I would, in this scenario, again, I would put a satellite right here. You might be able to get away with this router communicating with this satellite, and then this satellite covering this area. And oops. Oh, did I not copy it? Sorry, folks. This area and this area. I think you should be able to do that. My recommendation is actually, again, especially in this setup, to upgrade to a better mesh system where this satellite actually is more powerful and looks a lot like this. Okay, this is an Orbi, and this is a satellite. What if the modem was in the living room? Let's put a modem here, a router here. In this scenario, I would put 1 satellite here and 1 satellite here. In fact, there are different mesh networks that they'll give you 1 really nice router, 2 not as strong satellites. I actually would recommend, what you see here is the setup. It would be just like this. The quote-unquote cheaper satellite, nice router. And I think that would power up the entire home. There is also the possibility, let's clean this up a little bit, that the modem was down here. Okay. And as you can imagine, if the modem is down here, the real problem is how do we get internet into this bathroom? And so my recommendation here is to put a satellite inside this dining room area, closer to the living room. So it's like in between the 2 spots, but right here, with the assumption that this is going to be able to connect to this and light up this area. And in fact, this router might be strong enough to light up bedroom 3. I know it's on the 3rd floor, it's jumping, but it might be sufficient. If it's not, then I would actually move this satellite maybe around here and this satellite over here. And so something I didn't talk about earlier, because we weren't talking about 2 satellite situations that much. In this scenario, mesh networks can actually daisy chain, and what that means is if you put a satellite here and you put a satellite here, what this router is going to do is it's going to communicate with this one, and then this satellite is going to communicate with this one. And so this connects to this, and this daisy chains to this. And so what happens is now you're in this bathroom, you're using your phone, you want connectivity. What's going to happen is this bathroom is going to connect to this satellite. This satellite is not going to jump all the way here. Instead, this satellite's going to say, hey, other satellite, can you tell this router that I want input and output data transmission? And they're just going to keep communicating like that. And that's how that works. So here, I had to change the artboard and make it wider. Here we have a single family home, 5,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 1 floor, and one living floor, and then a basement. This floor plan is terrible. I didn't know where to put things. Look, I live in California, 5,000 square foot home. It's not something you own out here. And you could probably shove like 20 of our homes into one of these. And quite frankly, if you have a 5,000 square foot home, you could just hire someone at Best Buy to come over. But jokes aside, let's talk about a situation where the modem all the way over here and the router are actually near bedroom 1. Oops, sorry. So they're over here somewhere. Oops. Okay. In a 5,000 square foot home, let's actually talk about the actual products now. So positioning of them is really, really important. Just like having a fast car, you need a great driver, right? You need to know where to put things. And a person with a really fast car can't necessarily move in a certain direction really quickly and make great corners unless the driver knows what they're doing. So here I would actually spend $500 and get an Orbi system where this router looks a lot like the 2 satellites, or I should say the other way. The 2 satellites look a lot like this router. In a single family home like this, there's a high probability that you have Ethernet jacks all over the place. And what's really cool, and this is the first time I'm going to talk about it, let's pretend that I copy this right here, and this is actually, let's pretend this is the satellite, okay? A mesh router and a mesh satellite look exactly alike. So first of all, you're already going to get improved connectivity in this house by virtue of having a more powerful satellite. The second thing I'm going to recommend is, in these more powerful satellites, there is actually an Ethernet jack in the back that you can plug into. So let's say downstairs in the basement entertainment study office room, there's Ethernet jacks in the wall. I'm going to ask you to plug this directly into an Ethernet jack. What that means is, now instead of this satellite and this router having to rely on Wi-Fi signals to connect with each other, they are now connected physically through Ethernet jacks. What you don't see happening behind the walls is the electricians set it up so, like, let's play this out. Let's pretend there's an Ethernet jack. We'll use this. Let's pretend there's an Ethernet jack here, one in the living room. Let's say they're all in all the bedrooms, but just for the sake of this one, let's say there's one in bedroom 3. So the way the electrician wired things up is this one, bedroom 3, living room, and bathroom, the Ethernet cables behind the walls all eventually make their way into bedroom 1, where the modem is and now the router is. So what that really means is they actually have a connection via, it's called Ethernet backhaul with this router, which is great because now you don't have to worry as much about, you know, is the signal strength from this thing going to reach all the way over here and this going to reach over to potentially another satellite here? No, it's all Ethernet. So I recommend using Ethernet if at all possible. So let's say, actually, the recommendation I'm going to make right now is going to hold true with or without Ethernet. So let's just play it out. In this scenario where the router is in bedroom 1, I recommend putting a satellite over. Actually, I lied. This is what I would do. Let's say there was no Ethernet here. I would say, if you do not have Ethernet in this area, plug in your satellite into a wall around here, okay? Again, if you have no Ethernet, let's hide these for a moment. If you don't have Ethernet all over the home and you only have it here, plug a satellite here into this wall. Plug your other quote-unquote expensive satellite over here. So now you have this powering this side of the house. You have this powering the middle of the house. Actually, you might want to even move it around here somewhere. And then you have this powering this area of the house. I think this would be sufficient. These are really powerful satellites. This might be able to light up this entire home because again, this is a single story. So, what if you actually, let's turn these back on. Well, Romy, what if I do have the luxury of having Ethernets everywhere? Well, in this scenario, I'm going to make this recommendation. You actually move the satellite down here, plug it in directly. Move the satellite, honestly, yeah, I'd keep it here and plug it into this directly. You don't need a satellite here. Sure, you have Ethernet here. If you want, maybe bedroom 3 is where someone has a laptop. You could use that Ethernet jack to connect to your laptop. But I think this is the ideal setup. And there you have it. That is pretty much, I think if you take the information here for a single family home and you couple that with the information I talked about on the 2-bedroom apartment and the multi-level townhome, you'll get a sense of, no matter what floor plan you have, where you should place satellites. And obviously the most important thing, because this actually is important regardless if you have a mesh network or just a router, place your router and your satellites in areas that can bounce away from the things that I talked about that interfere with signals, which is running water pipes, steel beams, steel pipes, concrete, very thick walls. All those things are going to interfere with signal between from one room to another. So you want to place those satellites in a way where it redirects the internet traffic around those objects. So hopefully this helped. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment. Maybe it's something that I didn't consider with regards to floor plans, etc. I'll make time to answer as many as I can. Hopefully they become repetitive to the point where we can just start upvoting the comments and it can help other people. If this was helpful for you at all, please like and subscribe. Also leave comments if you want to hear me talk about modem recommendations, how you should honestly buy a modem, which one you should buy to stop spending $15 a month on a rental from Comcast, or if you want me to go deeper into some of these topics. Let me know. Thanks.